Welcome, friends. We are recording live from the LBTQ Women's Inform, Inspire and Celebrate event in recognition of International Women's Week 2024. I'm your resident host, Meg Talks. And for this episode, I am joined by Michi from MyGWork.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So how are you today?
I'm doing all right. I had my coffee. I'm feeling better.
I think in the team, we're still waiting to have our coffee this morning. We're pumping through on the water though.
I'll get you one after this.
Yeah. I was really kind of inspired to hear about your journey in today. I know you've taken a plane to get here. So where have you traveled in from?
I flew in from Madrid last night. I got in quite late. The plane was delayed, so around 1:30 is when I finally got to bed.
Wow, and you're here up and early.
Up and early. Yep. Wouldn't miss it.
Yeah, and I think this is it's kind of greatly anticipated. There's so many people that have been a part of the curation and the participation of the event. So I'm really excited to see like how it all patterns out. So I'm really interested. What's your role within MyGWork?
That's a great question. I work in business development. I was one of the first hires onto the sales team. And part of my job was to expand our market from the UK, that's where MyGWork is headquartered, into other regions like the US and Latin America. And so I was brought on in a global scope to try to really expand our reach.
I'm quite new to MyGWork. Probably the last few weeks I'm becoming more acquainted with the business in itself. And I think it's a really great example of just an intentional space that's designed for us as a community, but with a really unique focus on professional life. There's a lot surrounding social life, building community, creativity, but actually I've got a HR background. So for me, I'm really passionate about seeing how you can cultivate spaces within work that fit for us. So my first question is, in summary, what does MyGWork do? What are your primary focuses? And what role do you play within talent acquisition and professional development?
Great. So MyGWork, probably the easiest way to explain it to someone who is just hearing about us for the first time is we're basically the LGBT version of LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way. We're a social platform for members to connect, like-minded individuals. We're super open to allies. So really anyone who just believes in workplace inclusion is welcome to join the platform by signing up and creating a profile. It's absolutely free to do so. We operate in 138 different countries, so we truly are a global platform. And then companies, they join us. We have 365 partners because they want to hire diverse talent. And oftentimes it's very difficult to do so, especially in countries where it's even illegal to be LGBT, to advertise that you're an LGBT-friendly company. But when you belong to a global platform, this is one way that you can reach people from all corners of the earth.
That's really interesting when you think about some of the limitations of countries where they have got more stringent and oppressive laws and how you connect in with talent. Because I'm sure, there are people that live in those challenging environments that are able to connect with organizations that will meet their need. So maybe socially in their country, it might feel a little bit tight, but when they're at work, it may feel just a little bit more liberal. I think it's amazing. And how do you feel about MyGWork being able to make an offering to those individuals who may be in more challenging environments to find workplaces that embrace them?
My job is very fulfilling because every day I'm speaking to people, I'm speaking to our businesses that we partner with, and I hear success stories all the time. And I think you made a very good point earlier when you talked about there's a lot of support for social spaces, but people often forget most people spend 8 hours of their day in an office setting. And so we need to complement both areas of life, both professional and social. And so for someone to feel themselves and to be authentic at work, I think is equally as important as to feel that same safe space in their day-to-day and their social and their family lives as well.
I feel that resonates. I've noticed that within the UK specifically, and you may bring a broader perspective on this, but it seems that there is increased expectation and pressure for employers to behave and operate in significantly more inclusive ways, and that's through policy, strategy, policies, practices, and so on. But I just wanted to kind of get your perspective on what you've observed through your work.
One of the things I'm most proud of is that MyGWork also conducts surveys of our own. And recently we did a survey of over 2,000 recent graduates and students and asked them what are they looking for in terms of employers. And 7 out of 10 said that they want their company to be outwardly facing, supportive of the LGBT community. And that also included responses from allies. It wasn't just LGBT identifying folks that answered the survey. So that increased pressure is coming from Gen Z. It's coming from millennials. It's an uprising. It's something I'm very proud to see because people are demanding change. And companies are having to respond accordingly. And when we tie this to talent acquisition, well, people are not applying to companies that are not taking that bold stance. And the ones that are seeing higher levels of applications, higher levels of retention. It's really benefiting the business overall. So the smart businesses are listening and taking action.
And I love that concept of an uprising. I absolutely, I'm all power to the people and revolutionary, right? So it's wonderful to see the you've got the younger generation that are really driving that. And I think that's important because you have got a multi-generational workforce. So older generations who may not necessarily feel comfortable or feel well-versed in that space to kind of say, well, this is who I am. I want to show up in my full capacity at work. You've got that force coming from the younger generation that they will inherently be beneficiaries from, which is exciting.
It's exciting, but there's also something that perplexes me, to be honest. So there was another study from McKinsey that surveyed LGBT leaders within organizations. And 4 out of 5 in older generations were openly out, but 1 out of 5 in younger generations remained in the closet or even chose to go into the closet. The corporate closet. So they were out in their social lives with their families, but in the office, they decided to go in. So I was studying the results. Okay, this generation is demanding more inclusive employers. However, when they enter in the workspace, they're going into the closet voluntarily. So it made me really think about this and kind of do a treasure hunt to understand why that could be. And some of the survey respondents said, look, it's easier to be who you want to be when you've made it. So there was a fear of maybe getting passed on promotions or even be made redundant. Again, this was a global survey, so there are obviously some countries where you still can legally be fired for being LGBT. So even though they had this personal conviction, there still is a lot of fear when it comes to entering the working world, especially for younger folks that, you know, are just graduating from university or even high school.
That's interesting. And the higher you climb, the stakes feel less in some respects. I think the stakes feel higher in terms of perhaps pressure, responsibility, scope. But in terms of you've got more space to be yourself because your accolades, your background already speaks for itself. But when you're still finding your way, you've got to try to eliminate as many obstacles and challenges to try and make it through. So I can completely understand that.
Exactly. There's job security and higher levels. And that's why I think leadership from the top is so important, especially to be out and visible, to send a signal to younger generations that, hey, you can be safe and you can be who you are. But another very interesting thing is within that group, that dynamic, even less likely to come out were women. And then the question was, why? And so it's a double layer of discrimination that a lot of respondents cited. They said, look, I have the glass ceiling and I have the rainbow ceiling too.
When we're really starting to dig into that intersectional identity and that double layer of discrimination, that's really interesting. Tell me, what is MyGWork's role in supporting LGBT plus professionals to find and secure meaningful employment and opportunities?
One of the easiest things that we do is try to provide access. It's free, so there's no cost to join MyGWork. We didn't want to prohibit anyone from joining our space. But the other thing we do is we don't require you to create a profile on MyGWork in order to access any of our resources. And that's something very important for us because, again, we understand it could be a safety risk for some people to be associated with an LGBT platform. They may reside in a country or they may belong to a family that doesn't accept them for who they are. They may even be part of the LGBT community but not out, and that's totally okay. So creating a safe space, I think, is the most fundamental part of our organization because you can look for employers, you can apply for jobs, you can attend our monthly intersectionality events, our virtual career fairs, our big conference in June, which is called Work Pride, and it's just around the corner, and never have to fear about will I be revealed to the community or someone who I don't want to be? On top of that, if you do take the step to sign up and become a member, the member section is completely hidden from public view. So you're only going to be able to access this section if you take the step to sign up in a profile for yourself. And at no point do we ever ask you, what is your sexual orientation? What is your identity? We ask you your preferred pronouns and for your professional experience. So we're a welcoming space to allies and to anybody, and you don't have to self-declare anything to be part of our platform.
So you're taking the professional as the professional, but just creating the space in the environment that's fitting.
Exactly.
And from the perspective of your professional partners, how does MyGWork continue to add value within the space of organizational development with diversity and inclusion and company culture?
One of the things we found early on, so the company started in 2014, and our focus was talent acquisition. So all we wanted to do from the beginning was get access to LGBT professionals with inclusive employers. So really from the onset, we said, okay, if you're an organization that wants to diversify your talent your talent pool, please join our platform and we're going to help give you access. But then as the company evolved, so did our ideas of what our company should stand for as well. And we realized the retention piece was missing from the cornerstone. And so we decided, okay, we have a company. We're not going to discriminate who wants to join MyGWork. We're not a ranking agency, for example. So in the example, if you have a major corporation who is very well versed in LGBT inclusion, should they be here? Yes. You're a startup is building your team for the first time, and you want to make sure that LGBT and diversity and inclusion is built into the cornerstone of your new organization from day one. Should we let you in? Absolutely, yes. But the needs of these two organizations are entirely different. Maybe the startup is looking to hire 10 to 20 professionals, where you have a major organization looking to hire 2,000 over the course of the year. And so what we started to do was provide diversity and inclusion training for any company that joins our platform. We offer 4 free trainings per year, and it's done on a quarterly basis. We offer e-learning as well. In case, for example, someone cannot attend the live webinar training that we host, well, they have year-round access to learn how to be a better ally to the LGBT community. We also teach about preferred pronouns, gender identity, gender expression, and then we have a whole new module on intersectionality. And so when we talk about what type of tools can we equip organizations with, no matter what size they are, it really comes down to learning and development. Because we can attract talent, but how do we keep them? And it's by educating. It's by awareness. It's by teaching the tools and mechanisms that make people feel safe in the environment that they work.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that deeply, and that the utopia is for every person within the community to go into any opportunity throughout their career and feel that way, and to experience that and feel that the workplace and their colleagues are ready to integrate with them, able to interact, and to allow them to integrate in a way which actually there are no compromises, there's no simulation, there's no adaptation to your character, but you're just your full self. Do you have any success stories, whether that be through the professionals or the organizations that you work with, that you think could really add value to this conversation, and just, I think, also bring attention to the amazing work that you do?
A couple come to mind. One of my favorite stories was when I first joined the company. Do you remember around 2020 when Poland was enacting these LGBT-free zones? And it was all over the news. At that time, we were working with Discovery. Now they're Warner Brothers Discovery, still part of MyGWork. But at the time when they were Discovery, their employee resource group based in the UK and the US said, wow, what can we do to support our colleagues in Poland? And they contacted MyGWork and they said, look, we want to do something, but we don't know what. And so we put our heads together, and what we decided to do was a webinar that would connect the Polish office and anyone who wanted to join and their colleagues in the UK and in the US. We hosted it through MyGWork, so it wasn't done through the company, but they used our platform in order to communicate to one another. And what we did was help put them in touch with activists that were in Poland, those that had been arrested for being LGBT. The US and the UK offices of Discovery said, we're here for you and we're a beacon of support, and let us know what can we do. And we helped facilitate that conversation. So in some ways, when they were They were never prohibited, but there was a fear of reaching over country lines, especially in places like at this time, it was a very hot news item about anti-LGBT zones, which is, for me, insane. The good news, the happy story about all this is that now in 2024, most of those zones are completely erased. So there was a lot of pushback, but it really came from this collaboration between the offices where they did feel safe, but they also wanted to offer support. And they reached out to MyGWork, and we helped make that happen. That's one of my favorite stories. Another one is Pearson. When they joined MyGWork 2 years ago, in their first year of partnering with us, they hired 692 people from our platform, one of them being in Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
And that is the stuff that makes me wake up every morning smiling. Like, I love to hear these success stories because, again, it's understanding that somebody in a country where it's completely forbidden to be LGBT felt that they could access a safe space, apply for a job, and work for an employer that wants somebody just like them.
And my last question before we wrap up. Tell us why it's important for MyGWork to have support and a relationship with LBTQ women.
So the really great thing, I'm kind of choked up on the last answer. Like, I don't know if you can see me tearing a little bit. That got me emotional, sorry. So one of the things I'm proud of, we're a small team, but we're mighty. And 50% of the leadership team are women at MyGWork. And that is something that the co-founders, Pierre and Adrian, said we want from day one. We want to make sure that we're representing all areas of diversity and inclusion. It's not just being LGBT. You can be obviously any race, any ethnicity, any gender, any age, and still belong to the community. And we want our company to reflect that. So we have a huge outreach for women. Part of that is driven by allies, which are the males within our team. We have a wonderful trans colleague who identifies as they, them, but also is female presenting, and we're very, very happy to work with them. You have the leadership team, which is myself and another colleague of mine, Asha, and every time when we're having a conversation and we're looking at a panel or anything that we're hosting, we're saying, is there equal representation? If not, let's change it. We're never hosting a webinar if it's not an equal representation. And if there is, it's something that we failed. And that's happened twice. It's never our intention to have it happen again. We always say, let's make a space for women. And oftentimes when we do a call for speakers, we get volunteers and it's a lot of white men. And it's been that way for years. And it's oftentimes these people feel empowered. And I'm happy to have white male voices, but we also need to make space for others. And we were really, really intentional about that. We support, events like the one that we're at today by sponsoring in the ways that we can. We have a whole female team of my colleagues. There's 4 of us here today that are supporting and really just happy to meet with others in the community. We have a huge celebration that we're going to do next month for International Lesbian Visibility Week. And so in every way possible, my company, I can truly say, is really inviting to women and trans women. And even recently, we got a lot of hate online on our social media. And people saying trans women are not women. And the company put out a huge statement that said, absolutely incorrect. We will not tolerate this type of talk. Trans women are women, and we stand for anyone who identifies.
Well, on that note, I think we've left no crumbs and there's nothing left to be said on that. But Michi, it's been such a moment to have this interaction, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I'm so privileged to be here, and I'm happy that my flight came in on time, even though I was a little late, because I told myself I'm going to make it no matter what, and I'm so happy to have this space with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.